We take a moment to pause in this bent knee version. I want you to bring your awareness to your breath, and without making any changes or adjustments to anything about our breath, just breathe naturally. Notice where our breath moves naturally. As we observe our breath, be aware that our breath is simply a place of expansion. It expands from the center of our body out. And we can choose how to manipulate that breath to move into areas that we want to move. But generally speaking, our breath can find very subtle movements through almost most of our torso. As we bring this awareness into our breathing practice, I want you to see if you can find subtle movement through all of our ribs. And notice where you get stuck, where your ribs don't want to move. This doesn't have to be big movement, it should be super subtle. Notice our shoulder blades subtly moving. Notice our collarbones, our shoulders. And notice this is not just the front of our body, but the sides of our ribs, underneath our armpits, the back of our ribs. And it takes a little bit of effort to reach those upper ribs. We're just looking for movement and our ability to find movement in those areas. allowing our breath to naturally move back to the center of our body. And without any adjustment, we should be feeling breath through the front, sides, and back of our ribs, the lowest part of our ribs. With that movement in the lowest part of our ribs, we'll start to notice that there's movement in our low back, because we can't just move one area without moving other areas. Begin to notice expansion and softening through the back of our hips. Notice the movement through the base of our hips. Notice our hip bones expand away from each other a little bit. And begin to inch our right foot forward a tiny bit. Notice how this affects our breathing. Extend our left foot forward a little bit. Notice if and how it expands or helps us find awareness in our breath. And the purpose here is just to find movement, subtle movement within our torso. Noticing where we get stuck, where we begin to brace, where we begin to find rigidity. Walking our feet back in. Begin to bend our elbows and lift our elbows up off the floor to hover. Notice our ability to be able to breathe through our ribs. Our low back. Our hips. Begin to extend our arms up a little bit more. Check in with our ability to breathe through our ribs, the lowest part of our ribs, and our mid back. Notice our movement in our low back. The subtle expansion at the back of our hips. And begin to extend our hands up all the way. Noticing our ability to be able to breathe or where we hold on. So we're looking for those places of rigidity. And as we find it, we want to create softness. With that softness, we still have stability. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to hold our arms up in the air. But we can move within that stability. And that's the beauty of the word mobility, moving and staying stable. And begin to lift both heels off the floor. Check with our ability to breathe throughout our entire torso, scanning one area at a time. Looking for movement. Then lift one foot up at a time, keeping our knees bent. Looking for movement with our breath. You'll notice that your belly muscles are engaged, yet you're still able to move them. Draw our right hand back behind us a little bit, about halfway or a third of the way back. Notice our ability to breathe. Extend our left foot forward a little bit. Notice our ability to breathe. Noticing where we're holding on to tension. Can we find movement in that tension? Bring our right hand and left knee up. Extend our left hand back a little bit. Holding. Right foot forward a little bit. Breathing. Come back up. Draw our knees into our chest. Give them a hug. Breathing. Expanding. Feeling the movement throughout our entire torso. Drawing our knees forward again, our hands up. Find the stability you need to hold your limbs up, but still be able to breathe in. Notice, are you hanging on through your hip flexors, through the sides of your hips? Notice, are you gripping through your back? Can we be pliable across the front of our chest, even though we're extending our arms? Draw our right hand back and our left foot forward as far as you can comfortably stabilize. Come back up, switch sides, left hand, right foot. Listen to where you can let go. Come back up, draw our knees into our chest, and relax. Listening for movement within our body, especially those areas that we found at the beginning of our practice that were tight or rigid. Bring our hands and knees back up. Right hand back, left foot forward. Hold. Find mobility, the ability to stay stable and find movement in a more subtle way. Now, the strength may not be so subtle, but the ability to move throughout our body and let go of tension in areas that we don't need it is crucial in finding ease through work. Come back up and switch sides. Come back up, draw our knees into our chest, give them a hug. Now, when you let go of tension in areas that you didn't need, you found that you had to work a little bit harder in the areas that you did need. You may have found shaking, but as long as you were able to breathe, find movement within our torso while you stabilized, the shaking was beneficial. The work was beneficial. The awareness was even more beneficial. Let's cross our ankles, lift our feet, rock forward and back, flip over into all fours. Stacking our joints, finding our spine long, and I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Listen to how you hold your low back. Because we spent a fair amount of time lying on our back with our knees bent, our spine immediately went to a neutral position. We want to keep this neutrality throughout the rest of our practice. With our eyes closed, see if you can find that breath moving through all areas of our body, especially those places that are tight. Extend our right hand forward, thumb pointing up. Notice if you lift your shoulder up towards your ear, are you able to stabilize your shoulder blade? Spine is still neutral. You're still breathing. Your torso is still expanding. Check in with the ribs, the low back, the back of our hips, the sides of our ribs, maybe mid back, maybe a little bit upper. Releasing our right hand down, extend our left hand forward. Release our left hand down, push our left heel back. Notice, are you able to find stability through your low back? Are you able to breathe through your low back? Releasing our left knee down, extend our right leg forward or back. Press through our heel. Notice, are you able to stabilize your low back and yet still breathe through it? Releasing our right knee down. Close our eyes again. Make sure that you're breathing throughout your entire torso. Walk our hands forward. Lower down onto our bellies. Place our hands underneath our forehead. And pause. Listen to how we breathe through our torso. Where are we holding on to tension? Starting with the areas that we most commonly hold on to tension for us, which we found at the beginning of our practice, or new areas that may have shown up through a different position. Lifting our head, turn our gaze forward. See if you can breathe through your upper mid back, your low back, the back of your hips. Slide our hands around to the side of our ribs, hug our elbows in. Can you breathe through the back of your body? Do we begin to brace, create rigidity so that we can find the positions that we want, or can we be pliable? Lower our chest down, hug our bellies in, press up and back to downward facing dog. Finding the subtleties of the pose, tailbone lifting, spine neutral, shoulder blades hugging down our back, upper arms rotating out and underneath us, while we press down through index finger and thumb. Can we breathe? Rise up tall onto our toes. Feel the low back round. Tiptoe forward to the front of our mat. Folding. Inhale, rise up halfway. Can we breathe? And fold. Bend our knees, rise all the way up. Hands come together in front of our heart. Inhale, sweep up. Exhale, fold. Bend our knees, release them down to the mat one at a time. Extend our right leg out to the side, finding our hips fairly neutral, our tailbone tip up just a little bit, and see if we can breathe through our hips. Imagining that we have a balloon located in our hips, and with each inhale, we feel a little bit of expansion out. And that expansion not just moves to the front of our belly, or front of our low belly, but through the back of our hips. And we feel our hips move away from each other out to the sides. And slowly slide our right foot back and over to the left so that we cross over our left leg. Slide our right foot back and then come back up. Slide back, come back up. And one more time, slide back and come back up. We're going to slide back and hold. Let our knee come down to the floor. Let our elbows come down to the floor. And then come back to that balloon that we have in our hips. Directing our breath deep into the lowest part of our torso. Feeling expansion out, forward and back. Come back up onto hands. Hug our leg back in, place our right knee back underneath our hips. And then we're going to take our left leg, extend it back and slide it out to the side. Pausing, allowing our hips to soften. And coming back to our breath, directing it into the lowest part of our torso. Feeling our breath expand out evenly through our hips. Sliding our left foot back and over to the right. Then reach our left foot back and come back up. Slide our foot back And come back up. And slide it back. And come back up. Slide it back and hold. Letting our knee come down, our elbows come down. And then bring our breath back to our hips. Feeling them expand with each inhale. Soften with each exhale. Slowly come back up onto hands. Slide our foot back in, placing our knee directly underneath us in an all fours position. Closing our eyes if we choose. Bring our awareness back to our breath, finding stability and movement through our entire torso. Crawl forward to the front of our mat, and we're going to flip over onto our backs. Knees are bent. Walk our feet in as close to our hips as comfortable for us. Reach our hands up to the ceiling, stacking our hands over our shoulders, making sure our hands are far enough apart that we're not clenching through our chest or around our collarbones. And see if we can create space through our upper body. Letting go of any rigidity that we have created around our head, our neck, our shoulders. Then lift our hips. As we shift our weight back into our shoulders, can we find mobility? Subtle movement through the back of our ribs. We're going to begin to inch our hands back, pausing, listening to see if we still have that same mobility through our ribs, our low back, the back of our hips, the outside of our hips. Then as you find ease in this stability, inch your hands back a little bit more, recheck in, and then repeat. keeping ease across the front of our collarbones, our neck, our shoulders. And then once we have our hands to the floor and we're still able to breathe comfortably through our ribs, through our collarbones, through our neck, we're going to start to inch our hips down towards the floor. Pausing about every inch, reevaluating. If you've made it all the way down to the floor, we're going to begin to move into Shavasana. If you're still working your way to the floor, that's okay. Continue to find that process. Bringing our mind back to this moment. Let's bend our knees and then recheck in with our breath. Slowly roll to our right side. Press ourselves up. As we come to a seated position with our elbows underneath our shoulders, notice the ease in rising up tall. Bring our awareness back to our breath. Can we move through our entire torso? If we find our body wanting to shift or move into a certain direction that feels out of alignment for you, let it. Notice what happens when you begin to soften into that. Usually your body will realign itself as you continue to let go of tension. But if we create tension to fix our body or move our body or push our body back into a position we think is appropriate for us, we create more tension. See if we can allow things to just resettle, reshift. Bringing our hands together in front of our heart, sealing in all that we found through this awareness of our body through breath. To listen to where we brace, where we create tension, where we can find muscle endurance and stability through this process of movement that was slow, thorough, and aware. Notice how you feel in all of that. Take it as a gift and a tool that you can continue to use in the days to come. Namaste.